Okay, before this video starts, I just want to say, yes, I'm aware Bloodborne is a brutally excellent game which both kisses you softly and rips your eye sockets out. Ghost of Tiramisu has a stunningly beautiful open world with swords sharper than any 100-degree knife. The Last Guardian had the most lifelike furry I've ever seen in a video game besides Five Nights at Freddy's. Until Dawn was secretly a prequel to Mr. Robot. Days Gone was pretty much Sons of Anarchy meets zombies, but it was still alright. Uncharted 4 was, it was good. Yeah?
What? Is that it?
I actually really liked Infamous Second Son. 8 out of 10. Needs more angst. Ratchet & Clank was a surprisingly brilliant time. Hey, didn't a film come out about them too? Oh, never mind. The Last of Us Part 2 was a technical marvel, even though it had a weird message about how violence is bad while also having gameplay like this. And God of War made me experience a loving father-son relationship for the first time.
Boy.
But none of those games left quite the impact on me that Spider-Man PS4 did. I mean, I've been a massive fan of the character ever since my young eyes bear witness to the amazingly voice-acted 90s cartoon.
Get back here, Shocker! Shocker! You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
And the Oscar goes to
Spider-Man.
And if we're being honest here, Spider-Man is undoubtedly the best superhero ever created.
Oh boy, yeah.
That's right, I said it. Move along, Batman. Get out of here, Superman, because it's
pizza time.
And while I'm at it, the Sam Raimi films are cinematic masterpieces, better than anything the MCU has ever produced, and Tobey will forever remain the best on-screen Spider-Man. Don't at me. Actually, come to think of it, maybe I like Into the Spider-Verse more.
No. Please. Please don't say that.
So naturally, when this game got announced way back in 2016, I was considerably excited.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Even more so due to the fact the last couple Spider-Man games had been pretty awful. So the second this game came out, I strolled over to my local game, fought my way through the ferocious hordes of customers, bought the game, got back to mine, slammed it into my PS4, and quickly realized this isn't my house. What the? On a real though, the game's fantastic, spectacular, simply amazing. Ah, maybe not you though, Andrew.
Stay with me, stay with me. You stay with me.
So with the PS5 recently coming out, I figured it would be the perfect time to look back at probably my favourite PS4 exclusive. The thing is, the game knows how good it is, and straight off the bat, it slaps you in the face with one of the best openings I've ever seen in a video game. Oh, but what about Uncharted 2 and The Last of Us, I hear you cry? Well, yeah, those openings are great too, but in the wise words of Aunt May, lol, nah, this is better. The game opens with this slow panning shot of Peter's room, showing you everything you need to know about him. Photos of his friends and family, his passion for photography, his less than stellar financials, his commitment to being Spider-Man, every villain he's faced up until this point, and of course, Uncle Ben. You see, the game makes the welcome decision to fast forward through all of Spidey's origin story and drop you in with a nicely 8-year seasoned Spider-Man, meaning you skip Uncle Ben getting wasted for the 32nd time. Anyway, Peter gets up and oh wait, hang on. Sir, I'm sure you're a very attractive man, but this is about the PS4 game, not the super shiny remaster. So, let's just move you along. As I was saying, Peter gets woken up by a police radio reporting that they're about to attempt a raid on the Kingpin Wilson Fisk. Basically what you'd get if the Michelin Man had anger management issues. Also, quick side note, in the 90s cartoon, he becomes the Kingpin all because he couldn't do a pull-up properly. Wow, this is so sad. Alexa, play Lamborghini. Anyway, it's clear Peter wants to help take down Mr. Whisk, so he eats his non-buttered toast, suits up, and leaps out his apartment window, all while neglecting to pay his rent.
Give me rent.
And from there, well, the game just throws you straight into the ongoing chaos. Quickly swinging into Fist Towers, taking down dozens of henchmen as you learn the game's controls and different enemy types, all while having RPGs casually fired at you. Eventually you make your way into Big Willie's office and confront him with the reality that he's probably going to get arrested because he's only a level 1 crook.
That's how Mafia works.
Of course, Fisk isn't really up for this 24-hour challenge in prison, so he does the only logical thing and throws his desk at you. This fight kinda acts as a tutorial to how the more, rotund enemies work later on. But I still enjoyed it, even though it can just be boiled down to dodging the human boulder, webbing him up, and giving him a good old bonk. Soon you're both sent crashing through the ceiling, plummeting down to the ground floor, all while you beat the ever-loving shit out of Fisk to end the fight and the first mission, all in under a brisk 15 minutes.
So, should we kiss now?
Yes.
Fisk is then obviously taken off to prison, shouting about how we're all gonna miss his shiny bald head.
In 1 month, you'll wish you had me back.
Yeah, okay, sure. Huh, maybe we should give Willie a call. Anyway, a good opening is one thing, but realistically in a game featuring big old radioactive sperm man, there's only really one thing you're looking for here. But unfortunately no, they haven't included the pizza minigame from Spider-Man 2.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
Nah, but honestly the web swing in here, it's fantastic. Yeah. That's all I've really got for this part. I mean, there's nothing really more I can say here. The traversal in this game is endless fun, making the most mundane things seem absurdly enjoyable. Every swing from the top of legally distinct New York buildings to the bustling city streets below is absolutely breathtaking.
You're breathtaking!
And with an open world this dense and beautiful, you'll almost never get bored. Like, just look at all the cool stuff you can do. Plus you get some lovely orchestral music which accompanies you as you soar through the city, making every swing feel don't say it, 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 pretty epic. Oh, for fuck! But if you're not into the excellent web swinging, well, you could just take the subway, I guess.
So I went ahead, I rewatched the movies, and holy shit, these do not hold up. I'm just saying, I think the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies aren't as good as you remember.
The game also includes optional collectibles and activities to do like catching pigeons, clearing out gang bases, stopping people from speeding, taking photos of famous landmarks, finding backpacks littered around the city, research stations,
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
and of course, radio towers. Clearly been taking notes from Ubisoft, I see. And yes, a lot of this is just generic side content. But as I've said, because the web swinging is so good, none of it really feels like a chore to do. Well, besides the time challenges.
Oh, yes! Oh, thank you! So close to perfection.
The open world feels so alive as you leap from building to building with stuff constantly going on, from random crimes to some bros just chilling. In the rain? Not to mention, the game looks insane and is packed to the brim with so much detail that quite frankly, I'm surprised my PS4 hasn't spontaneously combusted yet. Exploring this game's open world only adds to how fun web swinging is, and I could spend hours simply swinging around the city listening to J. Jonah Jameson's lovely podcast.
You've heard of police dogs, right? Now bear with me. We train, outfit, and deploy police rhinoceroses.
One of my favourite things to do was find backpacks scattered around the place, because they have little mementos inside of them helping you put together Peter's backstory, showing you how much he's grown as Spider-Man, the different challenges he's had to overcome, and how the city perceives him. This kind of story-centered stuff really helps to flesh out the world and the characters the more you progress through the game. Actually, come to think of it, the story in this game is probably the best story any Spider-Man game has ever had. From the very start all the way through to the post-credit scene teasing Venom, the game absolutely captivates you.
No! Because I'm turning into Venom, no! You get off me! No, no, no!
It's funny, it's action-packed, it's tragic, it's heartfelt, it's got some real big stakes, and it's incredibly emotional. Seriously, that ending ruined me for a week. But honestly, it just feels like such an authentic Spider-Man story, and I think that all comes down to how well written and fleshed out the characters are. Yeah, good writing in a Spider-Man game. Who would have thought it?
I'm going to die!
Not me.
This game's portrayal of Spider-Man and Peter is arguably one of the best adaptations I've ever seen of the character, with an incredible voice performance from Yuri Lowenthal, who was also Matt Miller in Saints Row. Which is, nice, I guess. Peter is just such a genuinely kind and sincere person who's constantly trying to keep his life in check, dealing with normal problems like talking to your ex, your landlord harassing you, and of course fighting your friend who uses Instagram too much. And thankfully as Spider-Man, his jokes and quips are actually well written and come off as witty, rather than painfully annoying like in previous games.
You tased me, bro!
Oh, a meme from 2007.
Don't tase me, bro!
Great choice, Beanox. It's not just Spidey though, because the majority of the side characters are fantastic as well. Mary Jane isn't just a damsel in distress anymore who screams. A lot. She's an investigative journalist who's more than capable of looking after herself, not wanting to be seen as just another person for Spider-Man to save. Insert Kirsten Dunst scene here.
Stop. screaming.
This is the main reason they've been broken up for like 6 months at the start of the game, because Peter can't seem to realise MJ doesn't need round-the-clock protection. In fact, the one time he does actively try to save her, it massively backfires. Oh! Seeing the relationship develop more and more as you progress through the game is super satisfying, and honestly, any cutscene the two of them are in is just adorable AF. See? I said AF instead of the bad word, Susan. Now get your hands away from my money. Miles Morales is also introduced in the game when he starts volunteering at Feast, a homeless shelter Peter and Aunt May help out at. He does this to, you know, get over his dad going boom. And much like MJ, I really like Miles. Sure, he doesn't have a big impact on the overall story, but seeing him go from a massive Spider-Man fanboy to learning under Peter is nice to see play out, and you've got to have something to set up the next game. Plus, he's just got such an exaggerated swagger about him.
The way he leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
What possibly made you think that was a good idea to say? Other characters like Yuri, Aunt May, and Norman Osborn are all great additions too, with unique takes on these characters. Like for example, this version of Aunt May doesn't know how to properly cut a carrot.
You dirty pig!
All in all though, most of the side characters are pretty good. Then Silver Sable comes in and ruins it. See, after Fisk gets put away, a rival gang called the Demons invades New York and causes a little trouble. Their main goal though is to pretty much ruin Mayor Osborn's reputation by letting loose an airborne virus Oscorp created known as Devil's Breath. Or they just want to kill Norman. Probably that too. So naturally Norman isn't the biggest fan of this and brings in Sable International, an advanced military group run by Silver Sable. And guess what? Silver Sable sucks. She shows up like 4 times, kicks your ass each time, hates you for no reason, fucks up every mission she's assigned to, blames you for those fuck-ups, and then at the end of the game, after her soldiers have spent about 5 hours trying to kill you, she's like, you know what, you're actually alright mate, I'm gonna go back to Russia now. In fairness though, it is a pretty cathartic experience, making her lovely soldiers lose brain cells. So you know, you've really got to weigh the pros and cons when you think about it. Combat, much like the web swinging, is super satisfying, filled with tons of unique and visually stunning moves that really make you feel every possible broken bone. Oh, but don't worry though, Spidey doesn't kill them. I think. You've got a decent amount of combos and special takedowns at your disposal, which greatly varies up the combat. From being able to web someone up so you can kick their ass in midair, to using the environment to your advantage. The combat encourages improvisation and allows you to carve out your own little fighting flow when it comes to causing severe brain damage. But it doesn't just stop there, because you can even use the people you're fighting to your advantage, by throwing their own weapons at them, throwing their own grenades back at them, throwing their own RPGs back at them, or just simply throwing them. As it is, the core combat itself is tremendous fun with a well-implemented dodging mechanic, cause you know, spider sense. But the more you progress through the game, the more you'll upgrade all your skills and unlock cool web gadgets, which only makes the combat all the more tasty.
Nice.
The web gadgets you have are probably my favourite thing about this game. Like, it adds a whole new layer to the combat with a load of interesting ways to utilise different web gadgets depending on the situation you've gotten yourself into. Like, if you're surrounded by a group of bloodthirsty henchmen, then no need to fear, because you can easily just electrocute them all, sonic blast them off the top of the building, set upon them an army of spider-themed drones, give them a sticky web grenade to play with, or just leave a trip web for them to stumble upon. Oh, and before I forget, each new suit you unlock has a big special ability, but to be honest, the default ability is arguably the best to use, so you'll just end up using the Web Blossom 99% of the time. Although a close second has to be the absolutely devastating power of quips.
Seriously, is this where you pictured your life going? I'm thinking of growing a mustache. Yes? No? Maybe? I know society is partly to blame for how you guys turned out, but Rikers only has room for you.
That's not funny.
Now, for as good as the combat is, there's still a bit of a problem here. That being the stealth. It's bad. It's just super unpolished, and outside of a few select missions, there's no real incentive to being stealthy. Like, as it is, you can't clear out enemy bases with just stealth. The game isn't having it.
I won't allow it!
But hey, at least they don't have missions solely dedicated to being stealthy and sneaking around. Oh, wait a sec. As I've mentioned, Miles and MJ really get a spotlight put on them during this game. So much so that they get their own stealth missions, which are, perhaps a bit undercooked. Now don't get me wrong, I do get what Insomniac was trying to do here, showing the player what it's like to be a normal person who isn't part spider, giving you some perspective on the world and characters by letting you explore areas packed full with extra bits of story and tons of Easter eggs. And at one point, MJ and Peter even get to team up, where you use Peter to subtly take out surrounding enemies as you move through the level. Or you could just take a selfie with some terrorists. That's a thing.
I'm in danger!
But in terms of gameplay, when you go from doing this, oh my god, this is so much fun, to this, it can be considerably jarring and make these sections a drag to do, especially considering the stealth isn't good to begin with. Like, unless you're super invested in the story, all you really want to do is get back to kicking Rhino in the face. Or Horn, I suppose. Speaking of which, of course this game has a ton of villains crammed into it, but I can't really talk about any of them without talking about the two main villains, Instagram and the receding hairline. On a real, Mr. Negative and Dr. Octopus are both great antagonists because they aren't just generic bad guys that Spider-Man has to go beat up. They're both two fleshed out characters who have a genuine relationship with Peter, which makes any fight or interaction with them feel a lot more personal. Mr. Negative, aka Martin Lee, starts off as the well-respected owner of the Feast Center, and when you first meet him, he seems like a pretty chill dude. But it turns out he's actually the leader of a massive terrorist group, trying to spread the deadly virus throughout New York in order to exact revenge on Norman Osborn for turning him into this Instagram monstrosity, killing anyone who tries to stop him. So you know, guess he isn't that chill after all. The thing is, in his own deluded way, Martin has a clear justification for his actions. Well, the wanting revenge on Norman part anyway. The killing everyone part is a bit harder to justify. So throughout the first half of the game, you'll be going after Lee and the demons, trying to stop this plan from happening. And to be honest, I think Mr. Negative is quite a good villain, with clearly defined motivations. Unfortunately though, just as the character seems to be getting good, he gets his legs cut out from underneath him and pushed to the side to make room for the debut of the Sinister Six, along with the big reveal of Octodad. Now yes, Mr. Negative is a pretty good character, but in comparison to Big Doc Ock, he gets sparked out every time. From the very start of the game, you see the relationship Otto and Peter have, with Otto taking on a mentor role in Peter's life as they both work on creating advanced prosthetics for amputees. And through that, you get a much better idea of the type of person Octavius is, seeing that to begin with, he's a genuine kind person that wants to help people through his inventions, even if those experiments don't go to plan half the time. But don't worry, you can easily fix these advanced tech issues by playing some hacking minigames.
Step 1. Identify the target and its flaws. There are always flaws. I live for this shit.
You see Otto slowly transform from this wholesome scientist into a megalomaniac hell-bent on getting revenge on his former business partner, Norman Osborn. Yeah, apparently no one likes Norman in this game, probably because he's a ginger.
It pisses me off! Ginger people do have souls, alright? Liar! I'm right here.
Seeing Otto go through this transformation right in front of us, knowing you can't do anything to stop it, is pretty heartbreaking actually. But that's the point. We all know he's going to turn evil, and the game doesn't hide from that. Instead, what it does do is make Otto an insanely sympathetic character, so by the time he does go full octopus mode, we don't want to see it happen. And once he does go full on Megamind, he fucks everything up. He releases all of Spider-Man's worst enemies from prison, manipulates them all into doing his bidding, and remember that big old virus? Well, so does Doc Ock, and he releases it into the city, causing a city-wide pandemic. When did this game come out again? Oh, ahead of the time, I see. The only thing I really have a problem with here is how the rest of the Sinister Six is used. Like, they're established as old villains, and to be fair, they do get a little bit of backstory through recordings you find in Otto's hideout. My issue is that for as quickly as they show up, they're just as easily taken care of. Like, you don't really get to see much of them outside of the boss fights. In fairness though, there is a lot going on in this game, so I can see why less important characters like Electro were kept to a minimum. I mean, did you see what happened last time Electro was a more integral part to the story?
Feeling a strong 0 to a light 1 on this one.
Oh yeah, this game has boss fights as well. They're alright. Sure. Okay, to be more specific, you can put the boss fights into two sections. The ones before the Sinister Six arrive, and the ones after. And the ones before aren't that good. Don't get me wrong, they aren't terrible, but they're all super simple and follow a pretty basic formula which really doesn't offer much of a challenge. Overall, making the beginning fights feel pretty lackluster. Like, all you do here is jump around the train for a little bit. I mean, come on, I could easily do that in real life. However, when the Sinister Six come into play, the boss fights become significantly better. Sure, they still follow the basic formula as before, but the dual fights with Vulture and Electro or Rhino and Scorpion are highly enjoyable to play, and actually quite challenging because, well, there's two of them now. But I feel that only adds to the chaotic fun and excitement of these fights. Plus, you can trick Rhino into spearing Scorpion, which is just lovely to see. Then the final two fights with Mr. Negative and Doc Ock are, in simple terms, fucking fantastic. Both fights feel like these big climatic battles for both characters with some hefty emotional stakes thrown in for good measure. With Mr. Negative, he actually has two fights in this game. The first one, as we've discussed, is shit. The second one is good. Here you initially go one-on-one with Lee, then over the course of the fight he gets more and more powerful, eventually spawning in his own army of negative zone zombies. And then he transforms into a massive demon, like he's a fucking Dark Souls boss. But this continually makes the fight more interesting to play, varying up the gameplay, so here's a cheeky gold star for me. Then the final fight with Doc Ock is probably my favourite fight in the entire game, solely based on the emotional weight going into it. The actual gameplay here is still super fun, with you trying your best to avoid the numerous bits of debris and trash all throws at you, along with his terrifying tentacles. Don't worry though, I've watched a tutorial on how to handle them. But the thing I like the most here is how incredibly cinematic it all is. Everything you've been doing in the game has led up to this point, and I've never been more emotionally invested in a big final fight since Spider-Man 2.
Peter Parker. Brilliant but lazy.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Everything depends on you beating Otto and getting that cure, with the dialogue, setting and music only helping to add to how, monumental this all feels. Eventually you defeat Otto and send him crashing down the side of the building. You grab the cure, which is somehow not broken, and make the hard decision to walk away from Otto, someone Peter looked up to. Meaning Otto ends up in prison, which to be fair he seems to take pretty well. Then with the cure, you manage to make the vaccine, save countless lives, rehabilitate the city, get back together with MJ, and everyone lives happily ever after. Well, besides Aunt May, cause you know, deadly virus, and she's like 100 years old. Once you finish off the story, you've still got all the additional content you can do, like bases and challenges, including some optional side missions, like taking down Tombstone's drug ring and stopping some crazed Twitch streamers. And that's about it. So, after going through the entire game, do I still think this is one of the best PS4 exclusives? Well, I was going to say yes, but then I remembered NAC 1 and 2 exist. Truly, this is next generation gaming. On a serious note, as someone who grew up adoring Spider-Man, this game is such a love letter to the character, and you can tell how much passion has went into crafting this game. Sure, it definitely has a few downsides, like how they haven't included Japanese Spider-Man, but you can easily ignore all of that because this is easily one of the best superhero games I have ever played. And with how well the latest Miles Morales game is being received, I genuinely can't wait for the sequel. But wait, breaking news. I can't believe I'm hearing this, but we actually have exclusive footage of Spider-Man 2. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's roll it! Wow, this truly does make you feel like Spider-Man.